such a thing. Look.
Hey guys, it's Scott Bars here, the self-proclaimed hip-hop historian, and this is the 190th episode of my series where I grab a vinyl from my collection, talk about why I love it, what influence it has, and what its place is in the grand scheme of hip-hop. So, upon reflection, I'm realizing that this probably would have been a better LP to talk about back when Killer Mike won his Grammy for Michael, but as I always say, better late than never, which is one of the many iconic catchphrases that I have invented over the years. I'm not going to discuss that album much in this video since rap music came out over a decade prior, but I will say how I think it's pretty ironic and funny how the same people who push the narrative of, oh, nobody's heard of Killer Mike, Travis should have won, are now the same ones desperately trying to fight their way out of the corner they backed themselves into with the Drake-Kendrick beef that was unraveling at the time of writing this review. Though I assume it'll be old news by the time I actually get the upload out. I just wanted to point out that those are the same kids who the last decade have been saying, oh, don't care, Drake's better. Anytime they get caught in a lie or disagree with someone, or after they embarrass themselves for not knowing some titan in the culture. Ironically, Kendrick actually shouted out Killer Mike back on his 2015 masterpiece To Pimp a Butterfly, but of course the Drake and Travis Scott Glazers wouldn't remember that, because they would have had to actually listen to a non-Drake album as a full experience, which is way too much to ask of those goobers. Of course, for real hip-hop heads, the K-Dot shout-out on T-Pab was nowhere near the first time we heard of Killer Mike, even removing how prominent a voice he was in the Bernie Sanders campaign, and how he went on a number of pretty high-profile late-night shows to discuss politics, music, and race relations. I had already been paying close attention to everything Mike was dropping, and went from a casual listener to a superfan after the first and second installment of the Run the Jewels series with LP. I've covered RTJ2 on the channel already, so I'll leave a link for that one down below. But in that upload, I touched on the fact that both Killer Mike and LP were legends who already made names for themselves in the late 90s to early 2000s. Of course, El Producto and Def Jux had already taken over the New York underground through Company Flow or his work with Cannibal Ox, as well as his numerous stellar solo albums. But while Mike wasn't quite as active at this time, he was already making a splash through his affiliation with Dungeon Family and his high-profile guest appearances on a number of Outkast tracks. However, his relationship with LP really morphed both of their careers, because initially he was just going to meet Mike and give him a few beats for his 2012 classic here, but they connected so deeply on both a musical and personal level that not only did they form Run the Jewels and get right to work on the first installment, but they ended up changing the initial plan even further than that. Whatever number of instrumentals LP was originally contacted for quickly turned into Mike having him produce the entirety of rap music front to back, which resulted in an experience that is really unlike anything that came before it. While the Run the Jewels output doesn't sound especially tied to a specific region or area, this project is one of the many examples of why I hold El Producto in such a high regard as a rapper/producer, and arguably the greatest of all time when it comes to crafting experiences that are specific to an artist's sound and style. What makes this case stand out from the plethora of other LP productions is how the albums he did every beat for back in the day all sounded unique and completely separate from each other, yet ultimately they still fall under that Def Jux quote-unquote backpacker rap era. The overall feel is deeply rooted in the dirty South, and even with LP being pretty much as New York as they come, he hits the nail on the head with these beats. It's very clear he has a deep understanding and appreciation for the lineage of Southern hip-hop that he was helping to add to, and his hard-hitting drums, mixed with his noisy and layered yet catchy loops, brought something out of Killer Mike that arguably revitalized both of their careers. Company Flow and Raucous Records were by no means an unknown scene in the late 90s and early 2000s, but I remember hearing how certain high-profile features on this LP here, like T.I. or UGK's Bun B, weren't too familiar with LP prior to being introduced to him through Mike. I've always kind of considered this modern classic as a sister project to LP's Cancer for Cure, since they both came out at the same time and seem to have been birthed from a similar headspace, despite having different backgrounds and grand statements to make. There's actually a number of dope guest appearances on this thing. While Tip and Bun B both appear on the stellar opening track, they are also joined by Trouble, a more recent star who unfortunately passed away a few years ago now. There's also a couple other features, including Scar, Emily Panic, and LP himself, and one little fun fact I never even knew about this album that I probably should have is the title doesn't stand for rhythm and poetry, which is what we most commonly associate the acronym rap music with, or at least it doesn't solely mean that in this case. In actuality, this title is technically a backronym and stands for Rebellious African People. That definitely fits the bill for this project, considering Mike is so nonstop explosive and confrontational on every single song, and he shows an impressive ability to balance his slang and references between the old school and the more current game. He also walks the line between more rowdy bars that would connect to any street soldier, and socio-political commentary that shows Killer Mike isn't faking it when it comes to that aspect of his music and personality. And over a decade later, he still remains one of the most politically aware and active MCs out there. Probably the most memorable moment in that department on here is when he eviscerates Ronald Reagan, holding absolutely no punches and even saying he's glad that Reagan is dead, really drawing a line in the sand for his audience. When it comes to my honorable mentions on this thing, they'd probably have to be Untitled, Southern Fried, JoJo's Chillin', Don't Die, Ghetto Gospel, and Go. For my three favorite tracks overall on this one, I definitely have to go with Big Beast, Reagan, and Butane or Champion's Anthem. Thank you for watching my 190th video. Next up, we have one of the most talented lyricists and MCs to touch a mic in the last 25 years. So check for that one, and if you enjoyed, be sure to like, subscribe, and let me know what your favorite songs off this career revitalizing LP are. Don't forget to have a great day, and I'll see you next time, okay? Alright.
Who would do such a thing? Look. Look, I stand in the flame of a feeling we call pain. Father's Day mug, little hand shaped of clay. Carrier planes flew overhead in pockets.